second. I probably should have. There we go. There we go. Although I might not be able to access that otherwise now. Crap. Okay. So be it. It's nice using the actual camera app for reasons, but what's up, dudes? Welcome. Oh, you can't see me either. I'm so. Oh, there I am. There he is. Hello. No one cares, so whatever I do. I could talk about anything, right? Any modern, like, right, present event, and the world doesn't matter. Like, care what I have to say. I could say the most fucked up shit. No one would care, but maybe someday I could say even the slightest thing off, and someone would just go ham. So I guess it's got its benefits. Especially when telling people they fucking wrong, bruh. Bruh, you seen these things, bruh? Bruh, you seen these things, bruh? Show, bruh. The last Shaligram Zone episode was about a Shaligram that was rotating on that. Whereas more, I purposely put it on its side like that, where the last episode was more looking at it like this, maybe more like this, I guess, kind of angle, going like this, just to kind of get a different view of it because of details I was noticing that you may or may not have noticed. But there's a bunch of new Shaligrams. Maybe I'll just take a quick tour into these ones. Some of them are quite incredible. I don't know how far back. Like, I know I've talked about this one. This one looks very promising in terms of details that demonstrate it's not fossils. Like here, this shape is kind of like the disc of the ammonite shape, but inside here is going the other way in ammonite. It's pretty peculiar, and that's a tendency of these things to do anomalous things, where it's going sideways. The chakras right here, so it's like a top and bottom with like a connection between them this way, but like the overall shape is kind of ammonite, like on the side where the chakras would be facing down, more from like right here maybe. So it's got like a recessive ammonite that's kind of dominant out here in that it is the shape of the overall thing, but it's recessive in here in that it is overwhelmed by this other eddy that cut into it. And then just like currents along these paths inward underneath the matrix that were actually cutting through the stone, spaced by the ribs. Quite incredible. And then some other really cool stuff about it that we've already looked at, though. Let's go up to the next one that kind of piques my interest. This one's worth at least stopping at because of the side over there. It looks kind of weird. Let's see what's going on there. Okay, nothing too out of the ordinary. This has that shape again, where it's got almost like a Pac-Man, and then the ammonite inside. Less ammonite shaped around it, but still that tendency of the shape. Check out this one. Got some curious erosional ribs, even though the ammonite's like down here. It's got this like upper rib that's kind of like this portion of matrix becoming an ammonite by cutting here where currents would be flowing over top this, and with enough flow rate creating something more like this. But in this case they didn't do that, but they kind of did the general shape. What's happening with this, where it's cutting a top. Then the other side, and it's kind of angled, I guess, that way. Angled in the, like something like a shifting of something that was here shifted kind of thing. This seems to happen a lot in ammonites and shaligrams. That is not ammonites. That's shaligrams. Probably also not many ammonites unrecognized, but in shaligrams. This one I feel like we talked about, so we probably have kind of glanced at these. Just this cool thing here. So notice left side. It's really, I found this kind of fascinating. The left side is the boundaries are rounded, generally rounded, and then over here generally rounded, and then straight down, and then straight across when it interacts with some other current flows involved in the process. So it literally changes the shape of the ammonite to be a little more this way, which ammonites can appear, can be found looking, and maybe it's because of pressures that this especially exemplified. And looking at this, like, if I guess we can't really zoom in, this image doesn't let me click closer. But these ribs kind of go upward and ultimately, like, they look like they could be related to the chakra structure. Maybe not going only to the chakra, but to maybe to like the points. And this one. But then eroding in where it's maybe like could have created ribs more into the chakra if it was actually like balanced and appropriate, but it was anomalous and odd in its nature and position, and not really like one with this eddy, but kind of a separate system over here that was pseudo divided. So its interactions led to pressures against the main ammonite that changed its shape. Okay, that one's pretty cool. And then this one seems to have sort of chakras in the back. Like instead of chakras there, which it also has. Interesting top how this is. Or bottom, whatever it is in this one. But where it has a smaller lobe, a larger lobe, and then chakras across, and an overall boundary. Again, notice this is kind of angled. Maybe kind of angled across here even. Possibly a bit angled there. Not quite as much, but... And it's off-center. It's not quite centered, it's off-center. Kind of like maybe it started more like here, adjacent here, and then wedged open the space between with new chakra tiers. I don't know, that literally kind of like a jack opening the gap between the layers allowed for a gap to form rather than like purely eroding it completely. Like having some kind of mechanism in the process of how the structure forms that it behaves kind of like a jack that helps the system open up. That maybe like this boundary and like this boundary were maybe like one back to here, and it like literally filled in materials between that it took from outside. I don't know, just a thought. The ribs on this one's pretty odd, I'd say. This nothing too drawing me to want to talk about it continuously or anything, but this one was just like, if it wasn't this much, I would have got it. But I let it sit there and it sold out. But this one, I really found it hard to not get. It even has a smiley face here. The childish smiley face. An ear like it's listening. Wow. But then it's got ammonite here that has this boundary, and then another one here. But this one, like, it clearly goes this way as part of this ammonite. So it's like got a lobe out this way. Then it just continues, and like clearly the boundary here is visible over here in the nature of this. As it kind of widens, so like a current is going this way and widening, and then going more widely across here maybe, or vice versa, where it's pinching through this way and narrowing into here. I don't know. But where it's like creating maybe again like I don't know if you guys can see what I'm talking about. Maybe I should draw this real quick. Let's post taking out $50 again. I've been getting so much poker winnings. Well, so much. I just 1,200 like a few weeks ago was nice. That was nice. But then I got another like 150 for the last few days. Like, cool. But like, because this boundary here, and then there's sort of like a boundary in there that if we follow around here, then around here, and also kind of further one out that way, that overall again has that shape of like chakras and lobes. Chakras across this way, that's just one solid unit that's kind of narrows towards the center, and then lobes on each side that are different sizes, that then kind of are generally part of this chain. That then seems to go up here. Let's use a different color. Holy Lord. To a center that's maybe here. A boundary out here that then it's like part of this ammonite, but it's got like boundaries out from it. It's kind of pseudo like a chakra basically. So what I'm getting at is that this fed into a chakra type structure here. That's really like one half of the energies in this like interactions that seems to be a commonality, where again like this 1, 2, So it was like this is like 1 chakra 2, basically, with the chakra here. But like, isn't that, oh my god, I didn't even notice this. Oh my, I'm kind of speechless. Okay, be speechless for a second so that makes okay. But wait, like the chakras here, the actual structure is clearly bounded around this way, around this way, around this way, basically up to here. But then, like, over here is being eroded, and over here is being eroded, where it's like competing chakras. Oh my god. So fucking incredible. I don't know over here, but maybe like a smaller one somewhere. Like here, I guess, is another one that's kind of more there. Also looks kind of like here in this area. Even though this is the actual chakra that's visible, there's all these like potential chakras that are pretty visible in this. Probably because of the nature of this one, it's kind of unique in a lot of ways. Like this current is actually probably interacting like that. There is this here. Holy Lord, my poor follower. Okay, I'm just thinking generally, like maybe around here, just in this structure here, this boundary, that like it's a bending of the current that's like wrapping around here, going in and trying to go underneath, but then overflowing like up this way and interacting up here in a way that's maybe not atypical, I guess, and then interacting over this way. So these are like really bonded, I guess would be a good way to describe these eddies. Like they're literally bonded across some divide. Like this divide even seems to continue again over there. What an incredible Shaligram. I can't believe I let this pass me by. The ones I got instead, though, are also good. 175, though, is probably worth it for this because of the pyrite, which really adds detail. It shows kind of how the current was flowing in places that wasn't like enough to create ammonites, but was like boundaries of the current flows, and wherever pyrite is visible means more current was there because it removed the black shale, the particles that are finer grained that makes up the Shaligram and it makes it dark like this. But when those particles are removed by the currents, but not stripped of all particles, just those, the smallest ones, it leaves behind a matrix of pyrite quartz and other larger grain particles. And that then is what we see. So its boundary of erosions within the stone are highlighted by the pyrite. It's not just like pretty. It's highlighted. Like here's an eddy center that appears to even have like a chamber, maybe another chamber in this kind of area, maybe another one to here, maybe another one here, where it's sort of forming a ammonite. Another ammonite sort of forming here. Boundary up here that goes up, so like it's related. Like this could have more cohesively created an ammonite structure. This one going off the 1/3, 2/3 type of position maybe, and continuing into this as a flow path. Layering here, really. The smiley face. I saw the smiley face too. I should have been. Usually when that happens, I'm like, I need this one. It's telling me so. It's communicating to me. It has said, choose this one. Look at the striations. Who knows what they look like? So that's that one. And then a bunch of other pretty cool ones that probably have features I am just ignoring by skipping them. I mean, undoubtedly. Striations this way, but then erosion around this way. Almost like an eddy was occurring internally, maybe? Or current was almost wrapping around the eddy, holding it in so it couldn't escape. So more fluid built up there, so it became more erosive. I don't know. Other things, this one's kind of eroding the other ammonite above it, just not actually creating an ammonite, instead creating this blotch. That seems to have a circle like right there that has really peculiar details here. What in the... I feel like I can still see the center and like a ring. Some other rings, maybe. I don't know if that was even the same center that I saw. No, it was like here. Across like a yin-yang. Definitely interesting. That's just hard to say without being able to look at this one closer. Sold out. Not even possible. Even if I decided to want it. Usually ones like that I kind of am not that interested in. Because they're too basic to prove my points and thus be worth investigating further. In my, like, not just prove, but like also to reveal new details. Although that one probably had some details to it that I would have liked to see closer. Okay, this one's cool. I'm not, okay, these ones are better up here. In terms of curiosities, it's kind of forming the, like, suture pattern, the slash chambers of the ammonite over here, but just kind of eroding it weirdly. There's another another chakra type spot being eroded. There may be some circles here that then, like, here's a thought. There's an eddy, and it's, let's do this. Kind of like the thing where you put the pen next to the rotating thing and just rotate and it changes over time. Basically moving over like this, literally, and then catching in the side here, which then kind of like propels it this way, so that then like there's a row of eddy centers that we can kind of see, like right here is one. That's really reflective of a propagation of an eddy. So where one current and another current on the surface of this are interacting, and an eddy is happening at their interaction point, which is here. This point, it doesn't just stay in one location necessarily. It can meander as the pressures change, so it can like move over here, which is kind of how a hotspot functions. Kind of. Exactly. Move over here, wherever it may go. And as it moves, though, the eddy can like grow and can run into resistance if there's resistance, and that can influence it. And it seems to then have like tried to create like a new eddy overall, where this eddy would have eddied around a center to then induce a new eddy center in like some balance, where it doesn't just meander like this, like the pressure of other things over there that are kind of also there, but like a function of these things essentially, where there's just more of them and more flows over like this that are then overall leading to back pressures up ahead where the currents are flowing essentially. So it can't just like keep going like that, so instead it meanders back. So it literally goes like this and then back, at which point maybe that's why there's like a center here in this. And then maybe it couldn't do this, so instead it opened up enough space here for the general currents to occupy without eroding further. So instead, when the focal point moved to here, it ended up just like phasing out to just back to more like the original type of thing. And then it moved again, where I guess it followed one of the boundaries this way to then this eddy center, where interestingly the way it eroded turns. So it's like trying to go back this way, possibly like not actually able to go within some like the closer it goes to the center, the more pressure away there is. So maybe it kind of avoided that actually and went more this way to go in more of an ammonite type of spiral like that. So then it kind of went this way maybe. And then maybe over here too. What's going on there? Basically, so what I'm saying here is basically, this is a side view, there's the chakras, I'm pretty sure that's it. Oh, that's so cool. stuck. Not terrible. More than I'd like to pay. I just bought too many. I bought the Shaligram. If anyone knows what Shaligram I'm talking about, kudos. I got it. It's in route. The Shaligram. It's been a topic of discussion of whether or not it's even real. Oh my god. In my videos for a while now. I gotta see like a chakra center here. Little ribs out. Sort of eddy center that's elongated though. Another chakras across this way. So lobe and lobe. Even though this one's sort of like a chakra, this one's sort of like a chakra, they combine to be like another system that's kind of going on up here. I guess that's kind of going on between this and the over here. Maybe drawing a different boundary that's like this shape is like a chakra down here. And then this is very curiously spiraled with like dots, almost punctures of an eddy. Same kind of going on here, I guess. But notice this, if I follow like this, there's even a boundary here that kind of goes up, down like the teeth, like these teeth structures of the ribs, up, down, and it just continues across though to over here. And then this goes over that way where it, from like the long point across, is generally pointing at the chakras. Especially this across that is kind of in line. And then maybe like the angle across the widest portion relating to the chakra as well. Then one off to the side, kind of squeezed in, almost like it had, they were all competing for space, pushing away from the center then in some way. This is like a polar eddy, this is not. How cool. These things are... I'm like, what am I doing? I might not be very happy if I make these popular and I can no longer afford them. No. When I really, or like, they just get bought out too fast. People just do it in spite even. I don't want to think about that potential. This is incredible. It's got one of these like drill through things where the current is doing something like this, but maybe instead of kind of running into itself and being forced around itself outward, it runs into itself and like buckles and basically goes instead inward, which tends to be a shape that's like a circle with a tab, and then can have a like nucleus to the currents, like there kind of thing. But this one is really in this boundary are like spaced in a relationship kind of way, and then beyond that, another boundary. So whatever's going on here seems to have an interaction all the way out like there-ish, which just so happens to be in line with that. And then if we go across the bottom, it's generally like in line there. And if we just were to like connect this, this generally would be in the position of this ammonite growing. So whatever's happened here, anomalously, the growth of this ammonite, of the eddy, that was eroding this stone by growing to a larger eddy, starting here and growing outward, creating new lobes in the process. The current seems to have, like, basically if it's flowing, say, in this side, out this side, and then kind of running into, like, this area, and still kind of effectively draining in, and kind of widening out from this area, as it still effectively drains out and wraps around. But where some of this current wraps around so much so that it goes in here, but then when it does so, it starts eddying and it like separates. It's like its own system that then starts to push the boundaries. It even seems to have maybe some kind of weird like that thing going on. But push the boundaries out that way, and maybe even like this way. So that the ammonite doesn't quite interact across there and kind of abruptly stops. It's like, what happened there? Oh, it's broken ammonite or something. Who knows? Millions of years, time, erosion, and coincidence can do anything. Anything is possible with coincidence and science merging as one discipline. Look at those pores. In rows, little pores, diagonally though, kind of at a similar angle to this. Maybe to this boundary too. Almost like a box in here. What a... Well, oh my god. I really wanted to take a break. I might have to get this one. I don't really look at its surface. When their surface is incredible too. And whatever is going on here looks super interesting and barely visible. It's kind of got a pattern that, interestingly, I've been thinking. So let me just go like this, I guess. That a idea of how this is basically flows that are creating a grid that's three-dimensional. Whatever. Three-dimensional though, like cubes that then are of like a fractal nature, fractal cubes. Where, like, right here, say, is a cube. But then in that cube, like a window, are some more cubes. And these are just places in the overall structure that currents are being generally encouraged to propagate in a like sort of cube-like structure, so that when we look at these striations, and then seeing tiny little grains in it, like of the actual material, grains and with striations, what we're really looking at is fractal cubes. And then when we look at like, I feel like one of the recent images was really good at that. Must have been a different Shaligram. I think it was this one. That had a kind of cube-like structure too. This one's got up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down. Wait, what? Kind of like chakras across. 1, 2, 3, 4. I think it might have been here. It kind of looked like that window shape. I don't know. It's alright. Let's check out this one, because this one looks real cool. There's a video too. It's another, so it's got that kind of shape going on. Chakras with a lobe and a lobe, so it's eroding. We can really see it's eroding in this one better. Like, it's clearly, this is no different than this. It's no different than any of this. Is no different than just like that pour there. They're all pretty much the same process, just of different scales. Where the thing is, even though it's like doing fractal cubes, it's in a matrix. Of grains. And let's just, for simplicity purposes, say not fractal. Like black shale. So what's in this black shale? Pyrite. Quartz. Etc. Sorry, I don't really know like a full extent. I recently read that limestone is involved in the area. I don't know what part of Shaligrams is limestone. I don't know. But the point is, they are composed of a range of grain sizes. Whereas over here, it's like down to the pour. It's to the point where it's really not a range when there's not a grain of shale the size of a Shaligram, if you will. Whereas there are cubes the size of a Shaligram, where within the cube, like if there's a current flow along the boundaries, along the planes, because these are pretty much planes, that then cross each other at 90-degree angles periodically, that then create cubes. Within that cube, current is being generally flowing around a matrix and like cutting across between the portions of the matrix. To shape the matrix, so it's making it a cube, but like with a sphere-ish thing inside of it that is actually shaped by the process. But where like the flows are very like ocean current consistent kind of thing in terms of having a repetitive shape where the flows around the cube are caused to, I don't know what I was saying, but I forgot what I was saying. Fuck. Flows in the cube shape the Shaligram. But like it can be many cubes, so like right here. Oops. Another cube could be, say, a 3x3 cube. And it probably doesn't have to be cubes. It can also be a 3x2, let's say. Rectangle. Whatever, boxes. Boxes with little packages inside, like Shaligrams. I love Shaligrams. This one's real cool. It looks sleek. I like the way it looks. It's not necessarily like appealing in a scientific way to me as much as others. I mean, it's certainly got its amazing characteristics. I don't want to downgrade any Shaligrams. They all really are incredible. Like right here, we can kind of see boundary, and then like relatively parallel to this far side over here specifically. And then this little tab thing going off of it, which is curious. Lots of surface details, but then the way the chakra is, again with this like angle down across towards like over here, where basically it meets the matrix, meets the ammonite. Chakra was being cut here underneath the chakra. Like that doesn't make sense for an ammonite. It literally, that's not possible. It's just not possible. That's not how ammonites are. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, experts. There we go. More this angle one. Sorry dudes, I broke the game. Hate to tell, hate to break it to you, but I broke the game. Sorry dudes, I broke the game. This one's definitely cool. I thought about this one too. Again, it was a little on the pricey side for me. Here's like a chakra, a lobe out this way that was forming. That's just on a pseudo there. Ammonite, obviously, ammonite. Whatever's going on here, that seems again generally in line with other things here. Also seems related to this ammonite by its width to here and down this way and here down this way and this patch that's there. Like whatever. And here again, like this is sort of like it repeated here. So maybe there was some motion here that, or the cube type thing where an interaction's here, another cube type thing here, another cube type thing here. And then maybe down there too. I don't know. I haven't really thoroughly thought into that detail of things. This is crazy. There's chakras right there with a lobe and like another lobe kind of forming here that's kind of wide out that way. Another chakra's there though. This one seems to be wanting to form, but then it's between this and this. Maybe it just couldn't really form, so instead of form there. That's kind of incredible. It looks like it started with one like this that wrapped around and maybe into like this crevice, but then it drained down through at the nucleus and instead eddied out sideways and up and out of the stone maybe to then create a different ammonite off of this, because this doesn't really make sense. It's very smooth, rounded, it's got a hard flat boundary there, kind of like that. Time, erosion, and coincidence. Time, erosion, coincidence makes this chakra type thing going on between here. Kind of cool. Wow, this row, chakras, beam layering. It's almost like it's trying to form a chakra going in over, in over, in over, in over, and just skipping, and then kind of catching there and trailing in like underneath this way over into here, in this way, and like feeding in that way, but then continuing down into this, and then creating an eddy here that like drew current down through the chakra to a point where it eroded this area. Like, which then seems to have interacted across to this patch, which then has a boundary sort of like here, like a chakra between the lobes. A chakra though, between the lobe and lobe. Okay, that's all on Rudrox Guru. Let's see, this is the one I was talking about. The Shaligram. Worth $100. I even had a 10% coupon that I was like, bruh, worth $100. Much appreciated. Vishnu. As far as I'm concerned, that's the most Vishnu-like thing I've ever seen. We got hanging out in there. I cannot wait. So there's that one. That one is en route. Also, I came across this. I've gotten some stones from this vendor. In China, Mongolian desert sandstone or desert stones or something. Desert gatestone. And is it this one? No. Say desert gate. Like what? This is kind of incredible. Like how? Where are these colors coming from? How mind-boggling! Whoa. Thought I'd bring that up before I never see it again and forget about it. Like, wow. And then there's several. This one has like cave system looking, like quartz stuff going on. I don't think that anyone is touching these and staining them or something. It's just that's how these are in Mongolia. Not like all the time. It seems pretty rare in this person's collection. These people's collection. I mean, look at those layers. This is kind of what I mean. Like it's shaligrams are much more like this. This is almost like a computer boxy version in the way the boundary is in a lot of ways. Than how shaligrams are, almost like it was more glassy material or something. Some reason it would become more like this. This edge is kind of nice. Wow. Like the way these layers are is how shaligrams are. And then we see the side, these things, striations that are really like flowing layers though, I guess. And then each layer is then dissected similarly, so it's just much more like looking from this side from either angle, so it doesn't show it so well. But I think it's effectively that. Incredible. Okay, let's see. I don't think there are many new ones. I also have 3 coming tomorrow. Out of 5 en route. 3 out of 5 in routes. The last one to get here will be the one I just showed. Okay, it looks like we only have this one really to see. This one's incredible too. Like just the way these kind of boundaries are. Over here, looking like a single lobe with a chakra right here. Lobe out this way. Where it could have had maybe a second lobe over here, but didn't. Also looking like it's kind of forming this way too, and maybe something else over there. That's just some subtlety going on. Again with that top feature. But I think that's more... Oh no, that's not. Like the boundary of the ammonite is further, so it's kind of like a... We really can see like a stripped layer right there, it seems. Like it just drops it down a layer. There too. Some other cool features around this shaligram. The way these are, kind of like a chakra here with lobe to lobe. And then a nucleus region that's also being eroded, I guess, between another chakra. Really cool surface features. Incredible how the matrix and the ammonite interact. Doesn't really make sense. Why would a matrix erode like this? Like a chakra. Literally. Up. Over, up. Over, up. Down, over. And then doing more of like a hills and valley kind of thing. Like a mountain range as it goes over like that. This is probably where a current was generally flowing, like in this in this direction. I don't know which direction, but in that plane or whatever. That line. Just above the boundaries, and then another one going more this way at essentially 90-degree angles. That were probably generally at play, and then nuances, of course. This boundary, like, what is this about right here? Going up, up. Oh my god, it makes no sense. And then another boundary across here, another boundary across here, another boundary across here, and within this other thing. Some more boundaries that seem to be here. Going up that way. Wow. A very like round nucleus looking core kind of thing too. Pretty cool. Trying to actually look at it. Can't really see it from the left side. Does not need to sleep more, I guess. I feel like my booty is finally doing better. That's cool. Thanks, Doc. Better. All things are relative. I don't know if I've talked about these ones either. This one. They have been selling some, but I guess they haven't really sold. Any of those. Like this surface. Make it make sense, modern science. Your explanation falls short, modern science. Look at how many slices are right there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 down there. 8. Some stuff going up that way, going that way, going off that way. To this boundary that goes across here for some reason. All these. Another. And then down here, like, why? Why would it erode a boundary? This is fucking... Nibs. Typical. Typical science. Science be like this. There's a problem. I figured it out. I figured it out. Wrong answer. Hold on to that as if it's truth for as long as possible, though. Science is like, yes, sir. Incorporating into our model of truth wrong answers. I really would like this one. I thought about trying to offer like significantly less, but they were selling, so I was like, I feel bad if I know they're gonna probably sell. No one cares. Okay. I just ultimately talk about this because I feel bad about selling or buying them. Although I use poker winnings lately. It was like it was meant to be. I was like, oh shit, I didn't get like technically I didn't get the cash out that I wanted to use. So I used the cash. Although it was with the poker winnings. Just trying to like not buy them except with poker winnings. It's kind of like I'm just getting them. I don't know. That's just silly. I say poker, but I also mean slots. Okay. Sometimes this, sometimes that. Depends on what's hitting, what's missing. It's life. Really fucking mind-boggling. It's huge too. 1.5 kilograms, 6 by 4.5 by 3.2, 6 inches. Probably my largest Shaligram. It is approximately 5.5, a little bit more. So it's comparable length. About 4 comparable width. And about 2 inches height, so a little shorter. This one's definitely like fatter in the side here. That one I weighed before and it was like 900 grams versus 1700 or 1500 grams. So this is like double the actual material. A lot of big ones, that's why they're so pricey, I guess. 300. Same exact weight? That's a lot. Same exact dimensions. I guess they just put in generic stats. Not cool. They are pretty similar, I guess, but probably it's hard to actually measure. This seemed odd. Like this rotation goes out to here. End to here? Like, what the fuck? And then it reconverges over here. doesn't really make sense. It's almost like a current is cutting in this way and kind of pushing flow that way. Something. Boundary Vanetti, or an ammonite down there. Oh, these surface details look incredible too. Oh my god. I don't have any like this. This one would be quite the adventure if I ever managed to be able to get it. Feel comfortable. I might get a job at it hilariously. I don't even want to talk about it because it's so hilarious, but like, it's just rude. It's just not where. It's kind of like when I worked in college at the public safety. It really wasn't me, if you will. About a place to work. What a garden center. That one kind of made more sense though. Incredible. Oh, wow. It's totally doing. Like here. And then like up this way. And it even has a divide right there. And like other rib type structures kind of around it, like it's shifting. And then this one over here. Where it's maybe doing the same then, where it's got like more of a shape like this. It's kind of like a reverse chakra. Alright, like here's the chakra here. And this was like a secondary chakra. But where it actually influences the ammonite to possibly like divide it, basically. Not necessarily in this case, but like an element of what is happening, maybe. I started writing a script for a new video. It's been a while since I wrote a script. About Shaligrams. I'm feeling good. I almost want to just be like, look, this video alone is my argument. Rebut this, and I'll shut my mouth. Everything else, you can ignore. But rebut it. I don't know speak like that though. Interesting, in like a challenging way. Challenging authority, but like where it offends most people kind of way. Not a good approach. Oh man, there's lines across there. Like little claw marks. Hey, what's going on here? Okay, I'll be back actually. Let me do this. I will return. Oh, wrong one. Oh, wrong one again. I'll get it this time. Boom. Got it. I'll be back in a few. Oh, you guys can still hear me now. I'm taking a break though. I'll be actually back now. Okay, so these were some images. Let's see what I took. I haven't really looked at them. That one's pretty cool. With a camera. Okay. This is pretty good. Nothing. Oh, can I click this? Like zoom in. Not the best. Okay. Let's check out this Shaligram. Before we do that, I figured out where my camera roll is when I take pictures. I took a bunch of pictures of this Shaligram already. Anything that's 549 is new. Let's start here. So this was one thing I noticed. You can probably go back and forth. This here, the image we're looking at. Here's the main ammonite. Here's the secondary ammonite that goes off the side. Maybe real quick, let's look at the actual total ammonite. The whole Shaligram it is. So the main ammonite has a secondary ammonite that goes off of the base. and over here as well. That then goes over and threads through here microscopically, as it threads through here more visibly to connect to there. And what we're looking at in the image that we were just seeing is this one over here. But so what's interesting is it's ribs of an ammonite. But it this rib, so like from afar, it's ribs of an ammonite. So like if we look here, this one, it just looks like kind of like this up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down kind of thing. We can't see it that well, but this image, we can see what I would call quite peculiar, that it has this. So it goes down, follows this boundary. It also has like an outer boundary that's kind of like a secondary erosion boundary that maybe goes here, maybe extends up there, and then goes down this way and across, with like a more boundary down here kind of thing, that other boundaries too, but here, and then that kind of like giving me the impression of something like that, and that, which is kind of going on here, which then makes it look more like the dendrites and not like ribs. So basically ribs become dendritic by like the interactions at play, probably because this is spawning off of the main ammonite. So it's kind of trying to go down and form a lobe on the side and form a lobe on the other side. But because of the circumstances, when the current went down on the two sides, it instead kind of merged into a flow that wrapped around the backside of the stone and created another ammonite off of the first ammonite. I guess those are the only images I have here. And then the video that I took is probably worth just kind of going through like this. So it wraps around and then it bends to the side, and there's a interaction like diagonally through this way that relates to the ammonite that wraps around. So it wraps off here around and goes back towards the ammonite, and like a repulsion of magnets kind of thing, like two like poles, it runs into it and gets pushed away, and instead the structure kind of goes over here, but it also goes beyond over here. Like it creates like multiple potentials where it wraps entirely this way from this boundary, wraps over this way, so that like this turns in before it, but it also more generally flows across this way to create this area, at least interact with this area, where this here is the main ammonite. This is a lobe it was trying to form to extend the structure, but it was like awkwardly positioned just down. And then another ammonite type structure that's got some curiosities, like these little erosional divot markings that's with abrupt starts and stops, and then this curious shape here that's not really the shape of an ammonite. And then, like, looking across this way, it kind of does like that. I didn't really notice that. Wow. Where it, like, fans out taller and taller kind of thing, almost. Okay, and then this also kind of has, like, a nucleus with, like, a larger ammonite around, like, a half. So there's a bunch of eddies interacting in the Shaligram. Some so dominant that they are right adjacent to one another, one wrapping around the other like chain lengths. Okay, so let's get back to this. Now that we looked at the larger images, we can kind of just look close. Notice the striations over here. And go right, and then they, starting around here, they start to go this way, more diagonally down, across, and then we see more right here, and less overall striations visible. Just look around a bit more. Here's this a bit more, where you can kind of see like the center of the tube, if you will, of the dendrite. Again, with some interacting current flow directions. This was the internal ammonite. Seemed to have this weird crevice that continued over this way. Just a strange feature. Then we can see it continuing through here as well. And it was essentially by itself, but then here it is, directly adjacent, parallel to it, but spaced. There's another one that goes up and down that looks a little more like a thread than a crack, but it gives me the impression it's of the similar nature to the other one. And then this is the front of the ammonite, the main opening, and the ribs we see going up and down, but then there's peculiarities to these ribs. Peculiarities, so mind you, this is an imprint of an ammonite, according to modern science. Ammonite structure was up here, and then around it was material that flowed in and was it, or not flowed in, but was imprinted by this ammonite, which strange little thing going across there. I don't know, maybe we'll check it out in a bit. I don't know how much I looked at it, but what I was thinking of mentioning now is right here there's kind of a center. If we look around it, it's got like a weirdly shaped a thing that's essentially maybe another center there, but like where this area is like a center, and then maybe a center around here, or there's also maybe a center around there, but where this area is a center, and then again maybe a center there with boundaries out further. Etc. Like, this shouldn't happen, is my point. This has nothing to do with the ammonite. Sure, let's say there's a sea creature's shell fossilizing. Is the material around it going to do this because of its presence? Or are current flows involved and not being accounted for that are actually shaping the stone entirely? Because it looks like current flows are shaping the stone entirely. I mean, it is what it is. Okay, let's keep going now. So then it has some weird indentation, erosional spots. Shit, sorry guys. I'm sure that was really loud for the last like 10 minutes. Sorry. Okay, I realized though. Okay. But you can at least see the video and use closed caption probably. For that portion, my bad. But this center seems to have done more, where it has like a second center and less like a chakra between and a lobe kind of thing. So it's sort of like using that eddy center and eroding a tiny ammonite kind of thing into this, specifically the tube. And then this one, so this thing that we're looking at in the center is now at the far right. It's kind of subtle. Here's generally the center, or maybe, and here's the thing. I think that's where it was. I might be mistaken. It might be even further over. But then this one has this boundary here at the top of the rib that I poorly drew, that I can continue to draw this way, but if it literally has a boundary right here that bends down and goes over and into this weird like question mark thing. And then this, that's underneath this one, where maybe there's like a center in this area, like kind of like that, with like a more elongated an eye shape, maybe. Possibly doing like a chakra there, like relative to this, maybe there too. But then continuing, and then over here we run into this thing, which is quite peculiar. And then again, the striations. And so these are all going generally this angle below like this thing, and even beyond it in some of what we can see. But at like some point, maybe around like this angle, it starts to go more upward like this. These even seem maybe to go that way. Another image, very odd. Also over here, next to it, is this. Notice there's a boundary here that goes down and over to this thing. That's quite odd as well. Another image of it a little closer up. It's got these like tube type things one after another in there. Again, quite odd. And if we kind of look around it, where we can see the structure a bit more, now at this close, we can see kind of going like this way, and then a boundary there, maybe boundaries like there. That are like generally layers going this way. But then are shifting to be more this way over here. Literally current paths here all visible. And then running to some sort of boundary maybe around there. notice the edge. Like, this is very straight this way. And as it reaches the edge, it starts to kind of bend. Just as over here. So imagine that this section, I just put a box around, started to erode more and more and more and more along these paths. And then deeper. Based on the pressures for some reason, where it got into some kind of channel like this. It would make sense if something started out with lots of like parallelish rows that are generally parallel all across a large enough distance that maybe like comes from a point kind of thing. Like it's in the space there. Would it would make sense that this would lead to that with more erosion. Closer image, so we really can see up down in this. So this is quartz, seemingly, with no shale visible in there, like it had been removed. So my thought is maybe it even literally came out of here and turned into this area. And like rotated down and out and went down this way because its angles are this way, where all these are more angled along, if anything, it's long axis here. Not quite even that, but more so that. And then its long axis here really does point back to here, so it kind of suggests a relationship for some reason. My thought is maybe it's literally from it. Again, that question mark thing, notice there's some oddity around it. Then we go back, here's that center that was kind of like a chakra here, and we really notice just like there, the erosion is happening, where it's creating these very thinly spaced erosion channels. This one even has like an end. They're kind of like mushrooms, like a current flow is running into resistance and opening up a space. And then here, and then maybe it turns back over that way. Here, and then maybe multiple there that kind of are no longer visible. And then in here we see something odd. Here we see the same odd thing. And then I thought this was interesting. Here is like ammonite. And then off of that supposed like seashell, our current flow erosion paths that kind of fan out from there, where really the pressure is focused to the center and then almost like a clock to different places. Which then was probably kind of like pushing out to a certain region. Interacting with cross currents that seem to have been going more like this way over here. That maybe even upwelled, like in this ribs upwelling kind of thing, basically. Like led to an upwell in this area that maybe led to the currents more able to go up and less following like this trend. even though they still seem to do it in a smaller area, like basically left of this and then above this. Again, that thing. Again. Again. Another feature nearby. I noticed here there's like striation, like this way and then back this way. And then here there's so many oddities in this area. Going back again. Things that river currents and glaciers would not do. The end. Debate over. They are not fossils. The end. What are they? They are etched by current flows. Water current that shaped and arranged the grains into these types of patterns again. So here's a good example of a chakra being formed but not like fully forming. Like literally across, down, over kind of thing here. Basically in various levels to a chakra type place there. But then also had like a secondary chakra there. And then going over and a lobe chakra. And then dot type of lobe over here that just didn't form. And then chakra. And then maybe similarly, this shape reminds me of a chakra with a nucleus. And then a lobe kind of thing out this way. Chakra with a nucleus. I don't really see like a ammonite around it particularly, but that has that shape. I don't know what to make of it. I just noticed it there. Looking a lot like the Vishnu. Kind of pointing to that the Vishnu one was a current that didn't come in the front but in the side, if you will. But still created an eddy, but a weird one in that case. Boundary of this. I like how this one has sort of multiple chakras. So down here. Oops. Down here, we got a chakra with a lobe. And another lobe. Generally out this way. But then this structure actually goes like this and kind of goes over here. And then lobe, chakras, lobe. And then dot. Like it kind of goes up that way. Where there's seems to be almost like a disc that has chakras on it. I don't know about the other sides, but that's just kind of. This was in the layers, so we're getting really close in the imagery here, like layer down. So this is my thought, is this is all kind of a top layer, but then when we look down here, we see an underlayer, another underlayer, down. Here we're just going down through the layers, underlayers. But then here in the underlayers, so imagine Again, that current flow of grid is happening, and currents are literally flowing out of pores between the layers. But in this region, there's like a disc right here and another disc that's kind of just protruding out of the layer, and then this disc has like regions in it, which gave me a feeling of like an ammonite in the side of a wall kind of thing. How they can be found in like with like a tab and then like the ammonite protruding with the chakra generally here, and so we just kind of see this protruding thing. Gave me that vibe. This makes no sense for modern science. It literally disproves it. Pretty much every science is in need of amendment when they see this. Let's take the time to kind of outline this as much as I can. There's a boundary here, boundary. I mean, certainly you can argue what exactly is the boundaries on some of these, so let's try to stick to the most glaring ones. And kind of see between it stuff going on too, but then over here, we're seeing a lot more like layers this way. I bend in though until they don't, and kind of start bending more this way. Boom, headshot. What say you, modern science? Noob's gonna noob. Noob's gonna noob. Basically doing something like this. Also, I noticed kind of like rolling through this one almost. Like with a twist that maybe interacts across this way. But river currents would not do this. Glaciers would not do this. Nothing can do this except what actually did it. That is fractal current flows under extremely high pressure that shaped every detail of the stone, including the ammonites. Then over here, maybe there's some stuff going on here. This seems to be largely up down, I guess, with some nuance, obviously. through here, maybe with some like pointy spots where currents come off. Distinctly impossible fossil. Different angle, just some more angles there. Some more angles. This one I thought, as it goes with ammonites, they are dominant and recessive. So we've talked about how this one has a chakra right here, chakra here, and a lobe out this way, and like a pseudo lobe that didn't quite form over there. But also, it has a lobe and a chakra, like generally here. And this chakra seems to have interesting details above it that are kind of like a chakra. And through it, like an energy flow of chakra through chakras, which I found quite peculiar. It's literally a chakra and then going out to like wider chakra points, even out there. To then like be the chakra. Where what I would say happened here is maybe current flowed into here and like splash back, but under pressure where it was forced back this way and eroded through behind the matrix here and divided it somewhat slightly, but through so as to make this pyrite location over here. Rather than going just straight through here and out over here and continuing, which may have happened also, I guess. It just looks more like this is where it kind of came in, if you will, by the, like, that it didn't erode much here, but did erode much here, seems to suggest this is where the current was focused, not the other side. Oops, I'm going backwards. Some more images of it, I was also looking at the striations here and how they kind of bend. Nonsense, so nonsense, just making shit up because we have the microphone. I know that's kind of ironic, but I'm not making it up, so it's not really ironic. Now is it? Just wow, like the curvatures over here that seem to kind of go up this way and then goes across like in this zone and then kind of angles up in this zone and then it really starts to angle up past this. Crazy. Crazy. Main ammonite, I believe, is in there. So some adjacent stuff. That's right. This is over here, I believe. Or no, here. In this area. Here, I think. Yeah. And then these are those little erosional things. Here. Come on, dang, Mark. Come on, man, turn it a little more. You can do it. Right there, right there. Computer doesn't seem very happy. Oh. Right over there, whatever. The point is, there are little things like this. And, notice this boundary. If we just trace it further, it really just continues as this striation where above it, the currents are going this way. The striations are totally changing direction exactly above this striation that literally continues exactly to the upper boundary. And if we go over here, it doesn't like exactly, but it kind of looks turbulent almost. Goes through to another boundary. Even though over here it's going different directions than this, which is pretty interesting as well. And then it goes back to left and right. Like after this patch, which really just doesn't make sense. We can make things up and say coincidence, I guess. Whatever you guys feel obliged to do versus actually seeing the profoundness. Sorry, not to be a dick and make it less likely for you to hear me out. Much love. Kisses. Oh, that was helpful, I'm sure. Oh my god, it's so incredible. You kind of see, again, the structure just subtly in the rock, though. But it's almost like it's peeling back the curtain and seeing more clearly what is going on. In a strange way, here's a good one where the up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down literally starts to bend and goes this way. Other stuff at play all around it. Another one here. And then this is in the rib. Or not the rib, in the matrix next to the outside of an ammonite. So here's... Let's find it. I believe it's like right around here. If not, it's around the other side of the ammonite. This one, though. And there's weird stuff going on. So that's the size of this toothpick tip is about yay big. Okay. Can see some, again, just subtle up-down that's kind of wrapping around this structure that kind of looks like a piece of an ammonite in part that's kind of wrapping around here. Even though it's just like some weird feature of the stone. Skip those so we can check it out under the microscope because, yeah. Again, those striations looks maybe related over there in terms of flow patterns. Possibly up, down, up, down, up. Like this does look like it's going back up, like across here to this one. And then back down to this one. It's crazy that that has the overall shape of that too. Of a rib. Nuts. And yet it has those little things. There's another of these. I figured out what I feel is the best way to describe those things, which maybe is even these. Not completely sure if it's like the same thing, just one's more way linear in these instances. It even looks like the last one like bends off. Wow. We're gonna have to look at these closer. So many pictures, I guess. Again, there's that dendrite thing. I don't know if that was the same one actually. This is pretty interesting. I believe it's this patch. Erosion eddies kind of thing is what I'm thinking when I see this. Like a circle here, like a current was generally going this way and eddied and then propagated beyond the eddy in the path, but not without a current eddying to then erode. So it wasn't just like the other regions, but it was like bumpy. A patch where a eddy started to form. And like here, it goes over and then a bit upward and then really upward and then over and then downward to like eddy here basically. Here's a good spot where an eddy seems to have been, and maybe another one here, centered here. I think I was looking at these striations, I don't know. The striations are freaking incredible. These boundaries, oh yeah, these. They seem to focus this one. That's kind of like a chakra, and then widen, fan away from this up. It's almost like it's doing something like this. And then other currents are overwhelming a lot of it. There's other flows going across like this as well at play. But where it's narrowing and pinching in to a low point, but then a high point relative to it is actually pushing into it, so then it divides the flows away towards the low points, kind of like a melon, so that then they end up going like this way towards another low point, etc. Maybe it looks like at least these lines in this image maybe are pointing to something like that. I don't know. It's certainly not conclusive, if you will, but it's at least like brings the idea to mind to be considered in other places as well. Again, just incredible striations of many curiosities. The like stitching, it's almost like a stitching stitched together, but eroded apart. Lots of pictures of this. This looks kind of chakra-like. This looks kind of disc-like, with like a center there. Oddities, but like a chakra. Going across, down, over, down, and maybe a chakra to like there. Possibly a counter chakra that would have been like around there, but other things going on. Another like lobe chakras. Makes me think of the H blocks as just like physical chakra formers. Especially with the cube idea in mind. Very odd. These things. I don't know if I ever saw a center one between it like that. This looks like it's focusing current through a smaller and smaller channel in some way that shapes its structure as well. To be block-like. Extremely hard, so resistant to erosion. Which would be useful if you were trying to flow high energies through for some reason, some purpose. Okay, let's keep going. Lots of cool aspects of the striations here for sure. Just this little grid thing going on. We can see little cubes in there maybe. Circle in the midst of it all, of like the turbulence. Here we can see more like rectangular shapes, but grid-like pattern happening. Little cubes all over, but rectangles, whatever. But cubic, three-dimensional rectangles at least. Just why? Doesn't make sense. Modern science, you miss some details. You can see like a tiny thread of little eddies that then gets bigger, where it becomes a bigger eddy. A moving eddy that becomes a bigger eddy, and maybe just reaches over here. Possibly another flow off this way. Generally. I tried to shine the laser on it, realized a lot of the laser elements were the microscope more than the Shaligram, although still there's definitely curious interactions of the Shaligram with the laser. Striations, striations, striations. Nothing to see here. Move along. Modern science has figured it all out. Let's look. No rotation in that. No rotation in that. No apparent rotation in that. It just doesn't have any rotation to it. Like how could glaciers do this? It seems like it literally can't, right? There's no evidence that it does. In fact, they're not even claimed to, but that's the more likely explanation than river eroded rock surfaces. Chakra openings, water caused erosion. Hilarious. It just doesn't look as pretty. I mean, it literally even has a tier type of spiral to it. It's like we trolling. That's incredible. It's so like what we were just looking at with the lines across this way and going up more at angles. And this is more like the surface of Shaligrams. However, river flows would not do this either. That's not how water flows in a river. In very straight lines with abrupt turns at different angles, creating perfect structures like this. It would just smoothly erode the surface without the striations, or roughly erode the surface without striations. It would not create striations. While rivers can erode and carve landscapes, they primarily create striations on bedrock due to abrasion with sediment carried in the water. Are more commonly associated with glacial erosion. Nothing. No one cares. The striations for glaciers people care about because it's related to the so-called ice age, the younger dryas and things that are like popular topics of conversation. But no one cares about river erosion, so literally there's no images of a stone, a single stone like that stone right there, with any striations it has from being in the river. Must not be a thing. River stone under microscope. Sure. Maybe that. Whoa. That's some pretty freaking hell of microscopes. Oh my god, it would be crazy to see shaligrams at that scale. It still looks fluid and incredible on that scale. That would be crazy, where it's not like strong edges, but it's rounded like ammonites. Literal like little ammonites around. Oh my god, that would be so crazy. I don't see any particular evidence. Scholar. River erosion rocks. I don't know. No one cares. Plain and simple. No one fucking cares. I'm sure there's some discussions, but it's so... Okay. Let's keep going. Yep. Definitely impossible fossil. This one. Crossover, and it's like up down here. Seems related. Here's my thoughts. I said, here's my thoughts. No, I'm just kidding. Everyone wants to know my thoughts, right? And then there's these, generally this way, and they're interacting, and they are interacting maybe more prominently starting around where this crevice begins, but where their interaction has a boundary that is especially here that then starts to vibrate into like this, and goes up that way too, but like creating ripples, etc. Interesting, their interaction begins with this divide too. Make it make sense, science. Can kind of see these back here going kind of that way, it looks like. And in here, layers. I feel like there might be layers visible here of the striation layering continued, essentially. The way this is a hard boundary here that if we just kind of follow it has this one. I guess I'll draw it. Has this boundary that like kind of just continues right there to like that one, as well as more so continues there, as well as a little higher back here just above it, and a little higher still back here. But then like here they're doing this pinching thing where they kind of merge. And they run into a hard boundary and kind of merge. Very cool, very cool. This is coming off the main Shaligram, the main ammonite, I think. This over here, to the left of this, it's interesting, this is divided by this crack thing. This kind of goes to the high point here. And then there's another high point kind of thing right there in the shape that then has a boundary there that also is associated with a similar type of thing. And then down here, there's going that way, this way, and then kind of above it like this way, above that even, and then in here, up that way. Again with like a cross thing kind of going here, here. Where these ones are like running into that boundary and generally related to this opening over here happening. Just again doing that same thing where it's getting wider. That might actually be the one we're looking at way closer. Not sure. But again, having some kind of boundary around here, where above it, it starts to wrap more up. On that one at least. So anyway, lots of curiosities on that. Oh yeah. There's also like a repetitive structure going this way like this. Like out and back kind of thing. In this area. More incredible striations for science to pretend to have an explanation for. Modern science. Science can explain it. Just not modern science. As we know it. As I know it, sure. But not as we know it. As a collective. Maybe some people do. Pardon me. I don't want to offend anyone who realized this before me. Out there. I knew that first. I knew it first. Yeah, right, dude. This too. Pfft. What about Hawaii was a sphere? Did you know that one too? Did you figure that one out? I don't know how the fuck I figured these things out, dude. It's just how shit goes when you loner pothead. A lot of time on his hands and a desire to understand. But I'm kind of enjoying this because I don't really have to pay that much attention as I'm doing it. I don't even know why I was doing it. Just kind of pointing out how ridiculous the striations are. Holy crap, I made it. Okay, let's go back here then. So this is the ammonite, main ammonite branch off. Maybe you can just glance at the way it has dendritic structures is odd to me. I don't think it should. Anyway, okay, let's find. I'm gonna stop. Let's find though a couple things. Firstly, I would like to find that red spot. Where was it? Might be trickier to find that than I thought. Let's see.
Man suffers only because he takes seriously what the gods made for fun.
Maybe here.
Close your eyes.
And the red, I think, is just fabric. So there's definitely some like things on the Shaligram that are not the Shaligram. Oh, is this the place? I'm not sure if I'm even in the right area of the Shaligram. I might not have even looked at this. Certainly looks like it. Oh, wow, the striations. How does that make sense? Oh my, this is on the ammonite. Literally, there's the ammonite.
As much continuous with the physical universe as a wave is continuous with the ocean.
Ammonite
Do your own thing on your own terms.
matrix.
Came here for.
Ammonite matrix. Ammonite has these striations with its contours. So it cannot be glaciers, obviously. It literally can't be. But river currents cannot do this, the end. Look at the layering, too. Oh, man. Out of control. Get fucked, noobs. Sorry, anyone who's offended by me saying things like that. Much love. Let's find this freaking. Oh, was it here? Was it here? Here we go. Here we go. It was just. Here's the main ammonite. And then just below it. I think it was here. Thought that was it. Fuck. Let's keep going left. Damn, I lost freaking track of it. Was it there? No. Let's find it in the picture. My bad. Camera roll. I think it's this one. Oh yeah, there it is. Okay, it's right next to this. Okay, that helps. That helps, hooray. Okay. I'm trying, sorry guys, it's kind of not wanting to focus. Maybe that angle. Just take a moment to look at those though. Maybe if I hold it for this. Not helping. Okay, I'm gonna go like that. Try to keep it at that angle. Okay. I don't know why. It really does not want to show anything. Oh my god. The way they get smaller on the left and just take the shape of the outside of the Shaligram. Wow. Crazy. Like the pores around that. Oh. I'll take a picture of that. Like what? The chakra kind of thing here. And then like a lobe generally, but where it's like punctured with a bunch of little holes where this one is like a chakra too. And with lobe, but this one's like a chakra, lobe. Bunch of punctures. These are kind of probably like chakra type things as well. Crazy. And just for scale, this is the scale. Just for scale, let me hit it with this toothpick. Okay, there we go. There's the end of the toothpick. That's the actual width of the toothpick for comparison to the end. these are really tiny structures that when we come up here, like, what are these? If not inside like actual structures. Let's see. That is fiber, but what I'm talking about is really things like this right here. Goes, it's got a boundary, and then it bends, goes that way, and then there's another boundary next to it, like that bends, goes that way, creating like this little bending tube like thing, basically. That seems to actually be in the stone, and if looking around, it seems like similar structures around besides the fibers. And I've encountered this stuff a lot and frequently mistook dust or fiber type clothing fibers as something more, but it's still like in the stones a lot of times where it doesn't really make sense. Like one spiraling along the outer edge of a structure in a too orderly way, for example. But I was thinking maybe because they're Vajrakita, maybe they're Vajrakita is what I was thinking. If they're in the stones in any way, like I've kind of noticed they seem to be, then maybe it's the Vajrakita itself. I don't know. I might just be a little too reaching from things that are not actually part of the stone. It's hard to say with some things. Fabric is obvious in some instances, in other instances it's kind of, who knows. Maybe if I rinsed it a bit better. I haven't rinsed these. They've got practitioner fabrics around, whether they're near those types of fabrics, probably. Okay, dudes, I'm just babbling. I gotta get the hell out of here, though. Peace. Thanks for hanging. I hope I have been followable today. I'm just kind of doing my thing. Alright, peace, guys.